What did the BIS say? And they're right above the IMF. They said gold is a tier one asset. The IMF wrote a report about 8 months ago that said was entitled something to the extent of gold as an international reserve currency, comma, a barbarous relic no more, question mark. So would it be the IMF issues a Western-based settlement currency pegged to gold on using a distributed ledger to show the veracity and the immutability of it? The Russian finance minister said a basket of commodities, but I have a feeling that it'll primarily be gold, maybe all gold. I don't know. But I do think, as Zoltan Pozsar said, that we are entering an era that he calls Bretton Woods 3. Bretton Woods 1 was when we did take over from the pound sterling in 44. Bretton Woods 2 was when we closed the gold window, and we struck a deal 3 years later with the Saudis. And Bretton Woods 3, as Pozsar, who now has his own fund, he worked for UBS, he worked for the New York Fed, says is a system based on commodities and transparency. Well, you don't need to make it redeemable if you use blockchain technology to show what every country pledges and have it audited. Auditing wouldn't be very hard to audit the metal or whatever it is that is being pledged to the new system to give it veracity. And even if they only pledge every new brick currency has 10% backing, who knows? James Rickard says that he believes that every new brick will be worth 1 ounce of gold, period. And that if they do it that way, they'll let the West destroy themselves all by themselves. And what he meant by that is that if we continue to inflate to pay off all of our funded and unfunded liabilities, that the dollar will go down, gold will go up, the BRICS win. If they try and compete with the rest of the world and accumulate gold, gold goes up, the dollars go down, the BRICS win. Any way you look at it, I believe any new system that will inspire any confidence whatsoever must be pegged to something. And I think gold is the most logical choice. Why else was it reclassified tier one? Why else have the central banks been buying it and repatriating it, not only from the New York Fed, but the Bank of England? There are too many things lining up. And again, this is a progression of events, and people are too obsessed with instant gratification. This isn't going to be something that will bang materialize. You got to watch the progression. And, I think the Western media is going to do all they can to make people think you're not on the right track. I mean, if all of these countries are settling outside the dollar, it's going to change the landscape. And I don't know what that number comes to. I mean, I just looked at, it's about 80+%, 85% of all the global Forex transactions are still in dollars. But look at its role in terms of how much is in countries' reserves. In 2022, the decrease in reserves was 10 times what it was the year before. So the numbers keep, in terms of countries holding dollars as a portion of their reserves, continues to decrease. So yes, I do believe that the dollar is still, like I said, the best smelling shirt in the dirty laundry basket. But at what point does settlement that continues to happen outside the dollar begin to erode the reserve status of the dollar? That's a question that only time will tell. But I do think it is inevitable. I mean, you have to ask yourself, if you produce things of value, do you really want to accept a currency backed by nothing but a mountain of debt and, very little in the way of assets to back it up, but a printing press and a military? When the groups that are joining together have combined greater GDP and a bigger military presence and a larger asset base. So I don't know. I just think it's an inevitable. Right now, debt and commodities are settled in dollars. But what about all the commodities that are being settled outside the dollar right now? And all of the transactions that are being settled outside the dollar? At what point does that become not just a trend in motion, but a preeminent trend? At what point does it just become reality? At what point does a market that trades, I don't know how many hundreds of times more than the entire global mine supply in one day on these markets, when there's a fraction of the gold and silver backing those contracts? We're not quite there yet, but we're inching closer and closer and closer and closer to it. So yes, to your point, which is valid, right now, all of those loans and all of these commodities, the majority of them are settling in dollars until they don't. And that's the little by little by little process. So they are building the infrastructure, like the Shanghai Gold Exchange. How about the fact that the Petro Yuan bond is immediately convertible into gold on the Shanghai Gold Exchange? Where do you think Iran's getting all their gold to join BRICS? Well, I'll tell you, they sell their oil to Shanghai for a bond denominated in yuan, which is immediately convertible into kilo cash and carry bars off the exchange. Why do you think you're seeing massive deliveries off of COMEX? Why do you think you see the central banks buying more than at any time ever? Where are they getting it from? Well, I'll give you two hints. LBMA, COMEX, and the rest of the world, a lot of it comes through recycling in Switzerland. You use your opponent's leverage against them. They're levering things up to make the dollar seem better than it is. They don't care. They're like, thank you very much. I'll take some more, please. And they're standing there and taking delivery. And when you take delivery of 100-ounce gold bars or 1,000-ounce silver bars or 400-ounce gold bars, it ain't easy. It ain't easy. And what are you going to do with it when you got it? A 400-ounce gold bar worth almost $1 million. Good luck on selling that or sending it anywhere. The point of it is these players are so big and sophisticated, they don't care. It's a one-way ticket and it ain't never coming back. Just like the nickel market and the LBMA, you'll see the same thing with silver at some point where we don't have enough silver backing all of the contracts. And if everyone stands for delivery, why is it so hard to think that if they're going to sell oil in other currencies, that they wouldn't sell gold in other currencies as well? Maybe they will, maybe they won't. But that's all part of the same thing. Just because, okay, well, to your point, does it really push up the price of the dollar? No, it doesn't. It drops the value of the dollar. If everyone is taking their dollars and buying gold with it across the world, that means you're basically shedding dollars. And yes, you're paying for it with gold, or to buy the gold, but then what? You don't have the dollars any longer. You have gold in its place. So ultimately, if everyone sells dollars to buy gold, gold goes up, the dollar goes down. In a world where everyone wants commodities, that ain't going to fly. You can only suppress or manipulate a market for a very long or extended period of time by pushing it in the direction that it is going. And there has never really been this kind of demand opposite the dollar and for commodities. And if Zoltan Pozar is right, and we are entering a period of time dominated by commodities, then the COMEX is in big trouble. That I do believe. In what world does there have to be mutual exclusion between capitalism and good intentions? Can you not run a business and be a good guy and be someone who really wants to help people? Or is it just that if you make money running a business, and no one asked me that question in the 90s when I was struggling to pay my bills and struggling to keep the doors open,